This video is sponsored by Conan Exiles, Age of Sorcery. Do you like large, shirtless, muscle-bound men who beat up evil monsters for a living? Trick question, everyone does. You've probably heard of Conan Exiles then, the brutal rated M online open-world sandbox survival game that plays kind of like Skyrim meets Minecraft. But did you know that the game recently received a massive new content update that now features Sorcery? In the Age of Sorcery, you can master dark magic to summon undead followers or conjure storms of darkness at the cost of your health and stamina, which will visibly alter your body. Like Uncle Ben says, with great power comes great popping veins. They also revamped already existing features of the game like character perks and the building interface for a much smoother and more rewarding experience. And this is just the start. From now on, Conan Exiles will pass through different ages as time passes, each of which will come with their own themes and gameplay updates, so what are you waiting for? If you're of age or have consent from a parent or guardian, then click the link in the description below to check out this phenomenal game and its new update today. And now, on to the video. A Zelda game without bosses is like a pizza with only cheese on it, which some people like, but where's the meat? Where's the olives? Where's the pineapple? Mamma mia! Just like toppings give a pizza flavor and complexity, Zelda bosses give Zelda games complexity and flavor, and Breath of the Wild is no different. Though most fans of the franchise know that Breath of the Wild's total boss count was a bit lacking, at least in comparison to the diversity of bosses in older games. But that doesn't mean there weren't any bosses. So in this video, we're going to continue my series explaining the in-universe lore behind the bosses in each and every Zelda game. And if you like these videos, check out the others in the playlist linked below, and subscribe if you haven't already, because next up is Majora's Mask. Oh, and spoiler alert, obviously. To start, let's cover the overworld bosses in the game, which admittedly count for like 107 of the 114 total bosses in Breath of the Wild, or a whopping 94%. The biggest number of overworld bosses comes from two types of giant monsters, the Hinox and the Stone Talus. Hinoxes are actually recurring bosses in the Zelda franchise. You may recognize them from their previous iterations in A Link to the Past, Link's Awakening, or A Link Between Worlds. In every appearance, they're always giant Cyclops-like enemies, although by far their biggest appearance size-wise has got to be in Breath of the Wild, where they appear to be, at least 30 feet tall or so. Because Hinoxes are present in other games just like Bokoblins or Moblins or Lizalfos or even Stalfos, it can be assumed that their origins are similar to any monster found across Hyrule, which either means that they're just a natural species of being that just so happens to be evil, or that they were created by way of the malice of demise, which is a decently widely believed theory insinuating that all monsters across the world of Hyrule, or at least the organic ones, are made of malice, which originated from demise. Should this be the case, then Hinoxes are no different and have simply been created by Calamity Ganon. And just like most of the other enemies throughout the game, their connection to Ganon's fiendish power according to the compendium is what results in their differing colors according to their individual power levels. A couple Hinoxes are actually dead and come back to life as the skeletal versions called Stalnoxes, which is of course due to the influence of Ganon's power and most likely shares an explanation with all Stall enemies spanning the entire franchise. The bigger question is why Ganon doesn't just make all of his monsters immortal like the Stall monsters. You'd think that would be a pretty big brain move. Who knows, maybe his evil power can only go so far. Moving on, the Stone Talus bosses are quite literally living rocks that, try to commit murder upon seeing Link. Because they're made of solid rock, they're extremely durable and take very little damage unless you attack a certain spot, and this spot appears to be their exposed brain or maybe even a heart on their central body piece, which normally looks like an ore deposit and is pretty much the only feasible way to kill one of these rocky dudes. They also seem to operate like a hub where really their little brain deposit is the actual Stone Talus itself, and everything else just kind of sticks on or hovers around, forming arms and legs due to magic. This enables them to mix and match other stone types into their body, allowing them to literally hurl their gigantic stone arms weighing multiple tons through the air in order to crush your tiny human skull, then just suck some more rocks out of the ground to create a new arm like nothing ever happened, or make their entire bodies out of molten rock or even frozen rock. Now, we could also just say that Ganon's power makes the Stone Talus monsters come to life, which is probably true either way, but there does appear to be some strange things going on with them and patterns that we can pick up on that would lead us to believe that there's more to this picture with regards to how they work. For instance, Stone Taluses appear to grow and mature over time. This is evidenced by the little bitty baby Stone Taluses called Peblets amulets that you find throughout the land, followed by the Stone Talus Junior and Stone Talus Senior bosses. It could be that Stone Taluses are really just little nuclei that grow as minerals settle around them, leading to them growing or maturing over time, which is how rocks are formed in real life, so this explanation would be fitting. But the biggest question about these rock dudes is, where did that little nucleus come from? Is it a creation of Ganon's because he was just feeling artistic one day when he saw a rock? For a more thorough theory, check out this one I did about the possibility of Stone Taluses actually coming from outer space. I'll link to it below, and be sure to bring your tin hat with you. With the Hinoxes and Stone Taluses out of the way, let's move on to the Molduga. This is the rarest kind of recurring boss in the game, and again, reanimates when Ganon's power surges under the light of a blood moon. So again, it could be assumed that Moldugas are simply creations of malice. On the other hand, creatures heavily resembling Moldugas can be seen throughout the franchise as well, like the Moldorms from Twilight Princess, which also swim through the sand, or the Molgera boss from the Wind Waker, and yes, I will be doing a Wind Waker video soon, so stay tuned. However, I would like to present one other possible explanation that ties the malice theory into the wildlife of Breath of the Wild, and that would be that Moldugas could be malice-corrupted sand seals. It would make sense, given the corruption that malice is known for, and the fact that Moldugas have horizontal tails, unlike all of the other worm-like mole enemies spread throughout the franchise. But of course, this is just my theory. The biggest Molduga is the Moldu King that shows up in Breath of the Wild's DLC, but to be honest, that's probably just a bigger sand seal. Moving on to the last world boss in the game, which the wiki doesn't count as a boss, but I absolutely do. Enter the wonderful, peace-loving Lionel. That's a joke, these things are allergic to peace. Lionels have once again had other appearances in the franchise, first appearing in the first game actually, which means that the centaur-like Lionel as a concept in Zelda actually predates the Bokoblin, which is one of Zelda's most common enemies. In my opinion, Lionels have essentially the exact same backstory slash possible explanations as the Hinoxes do. They are also biological monsters that could have either just been abound in the land of Hyrule or created purely out of malice. One thing that's notable about them though is their intelligence, which is rather high for a monster. Their weapons are forged from metal like the Lizalfos. They can see through disguises, and they equip multiple different items like a bow and arrow and sword and shield or spear or large beat stick. The fact that they do forge weapons and there are many of them leads many fans to believe that there could be camps or communities of Lionels that survive together and share resources, which would only make sense given that other enemies in the game do the same thing. We never come across a Lionel camp in game, but perhaps we'll see some of these groups in Tears of the Kingdom, as terrifying as that would be. With the world bosses out of the way, it's time to move on to the unique bosses of the game aside from the final boss Calamity Ganon, and unfortunately there are only two, one of which is locked behind DLC, so really there's only one in the base game. Yeah, Breath of the Wild definitely could have capitalized on having more unique bosses, but anyway, let's start with the one in the base game. The strong, the burly, the one, the only, Master Koga himself, top banana of the Yiga clan. The Yiga clan, as most fans know, are defectors of the Sheikah clan, and as such are the same race of human beings, and feature the same white hair and red eyes as proven by the ex-Yiga man we meet in game, Dorian. The Yiga clan has sworn off their sibling Sheikah clan and everything they stand for, which includes the Hylian royal family and the Hylian deities. Because of this, they actually serve Ganon instead, and are both trying to hasten his resurrection and scouring the land in search of the hero Link, just in case he happens to still be alive 100 years later. This command is said to have been given directly from their leader and is so ingrained in their brains that they actually carry out their sworn duty even when their leader is taken out of the picture. Koga himself has been alive for over 100 years, according to the Age of Calamity, and apparently is the de facto leader of the Yiga, and in spite of his lazy napping nature is actually the earner of the utmost respect from them, due to his mastery of secret combat techniques. He claims that his techniques come from his father's mother's father, which could possibly insinuate that his bloodline has ruled the Yiga clan for several generations, since the secret combat techniques that earn him his respect didn't originate from him, and that's about all we know about Koga. Anyway, moving on to the next unique boss in the game, Monk Maz Koshia. Maz Koshia is one of the well over 100 Sheikah monks in the game present within the shrines that were built over 10,000 years ago. The monks themselves appear to have committed a process known as Sokushinbutsu, which is the real-life Buddhist art of self-mummification that almost 20 Japanese Shingon monks actually managed to do between the years of 1081 and 1903. However, even a mummified human body can only take so many millennia, and as such, all of the monks in Breath of the Wild dissolve into dust after their shrines are completed. Well, all except for one. Maz Koshia is much more involved with Link than any of the other shrine monks, where each of them designed their own respective shrines and normally welcome Link and congratulate him upon completing their shrines. Maz Koshia actually orchestrates and guides Link telepathically through the entire Champion's Ballad questline, which takes place all over Hyrule. Once Link finishes the many steps to finding and completing the much larger final trial, Maz Koshia actually proves that that these monks may have still been alive and that their voices weren't just echoes of the past or recordings, but that they were really talking to Link, and may have even been able to not only move a little, but move a lot. Maz Koshia actually stands up and straight up fights Link in what he refers to as the final trial within the final trial, which is probably one of the coolest moments in the game. It's unknown what Maz Koshia's relationship was to the other shrine monks, as in whether or not he was their leader or something, but he definitely was the greatest of them, and I personally like believing that the shrines and trials in general were all his idea, since he refers to his own as the final trial. A neat little piece of gameplay and lore that connects the Sheikah and Yiga together would be the fact that you can drop a banana on the ground for Maz Koshia and he will, do this. Similarly, you can drop a banana on the ground for a Yiga soldier and they will act the same. Now, like I said before, they really are of the same race, so this banana obsession seems to run in the family, if you will. Maz Koshia's fighting styles are also interesting and allude to some in-universe lore as well, such as his ability to summon the extremely similar spiky balls that Koga does, implying that Koga's super secret combat technique is actually a Sheikah one, and that Maz Koshia might even be related to Koga, since the technique apparently runs in Koga's family. Plus, Koshia and Koga do actually sound pretty similar. Perhaps he even is Koga's father's mother's father. I mean, these Sheikah types do tend to live a long time. Maybe the bananas are the secret to long life. Anyway, Koshia can also duplicate himself, which is the exact same move that Impa can pull off in Age of Calamity, once again alluding to Sheikah combat prowess. Other than his moveset, trials, and potential relation to Koga though, there isn't much else to talk about regarding Monk Maz Koshia. So now, we'll move on and let his bones rest once and for all. The final boss slash boss-ez we're going to cover in this video would be that of Calamity Ganon himself, itself, and all of its goons. For those who might be unfamiliar, Calamity Ganon is the latest iteration of Ganon, who originates from Ganondorf. More on him in my Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess and soon to be Windwalker boss videos though. It is said that by the time of Breath of the Wild, Ganon had been defeated and resurrected time after time after time again, so much so that his eventual return is something that can be relied upon prophetically. But why is he able to come back over and over? Where did Calamity Ganon even come from? Great question, and the answer is, in my opinion, from Demise. Now buckle up, because I'm going to explain to you my personal theory on the origins of Calamity Ganon, and Ganon in general, which could differ from your own. You are of course free to believe whichever you want, but check this out. Demise's essence is sealed within the Master Sword. This much is a fact proven by the ending of Skyward Sword. However, before he fades away, he promises that an incarnation of his hatred will forever follow the bloodline of Hylia and the spirit of the hero, all the while laughing his ass off and kind of having a jolly good time. Ask yourself though, what's so funny about losing a battle to a teeny tiny little insignificant human whelp? It's not like he was able to perform some ritual in order to bring this curse of his into life. And no offense, but that's kind of poor storytelling if he's able to literally curse the universe as we know it by simply thinking it up in his brain moments before literally being eradicated from existence. This franchise is a big fan of rituals and grandeur happenings that precede major events or changes in story. So if Demise, who was so cocky that he would win 20 minutes ago, gets his ass handed to him and is then unable to perform a curse on Hylia, then why is he laughing? Well, I'll tell you what I think. I think Demise had already cursed the world with his malice. Think about it, he was sealed away in the giant imprisoned avocado form many years ago by Hylia herself, yet monsters still plagued the surface of early era Hyrule, and these monsters just so happened to be created by malice. So clearly Demise must have released his malice into the world before he was ever imprisoned, possibly back in the age where he and Hylia battled directly. And you know what Calamity Ganon is made of? Malice in its purest form. The culmination of all of Demise's hatred unleashed upon the universe in order to be a scourge upon Hylia's bloodline, epitomized into the mindless, formless monster known as Calamity Ganon. But I hear you wondering aloud, but Bandit, how did Ganondorf turn into Ganon if Calamity Ganon comes from Malice, which is separate from Ganondorf? Well, I'll tell ya. It's because I believe that Calamity Ganon and regular Ganon are two different monsters. That's right, you heard me. Two different things. And for proof of this, let's look at the origin of Ganon canonically. He was created at this moment at the end of Ocarina of Time, when Ganondorf, moments from death, calls upon the power of the Triforce of Power to transform into a hideous, power-hungry pig beast, which is then killed by Link and is never seen again. But Bandit, I hear you wondering aloud once more, Ganon comes back in other games. Yes he does, but as different Ganons each time, except for the Ganon in A Link to the Past and Onward. In this timeline, he just remains the same walking on two legs version of Ganon, since the Fallen timeline only happens if Ganon kills Link here at the end. But in Twilight Princess, Ganondorf once again transforms into a Ganon, referred to as Dark Beast Ganon, who is a four-legged version created via the power of the Twilight, and is then killed by Link and Midna, never to be seen again. In Wind Waker, since Ganondorf retained the Triforce of Power following his defeat at the hands of the Hero of Time, but since Ganon had been killed killed previously in Ocarina of Time, he instead infuses a giant freaky transforming puppet with his power and calls it Puppet Ganon. Now there are other appearances of Ganon in the Fallen timeline, but I won't take the time to go over each of them now. My point is that what if Ganon is the monster that Ganondorf creates when infused with a large external source of power, be it the Triforce, the Twilight, or Malice? See, it's my opinion that due to seeing Ganondorf's corpse spewing malice from within in the Tears of the Kingdom trailers, Calamity Ganon is the culmination of Demise's leftover malice that has gotten a hold of Ganondorf and used his body over and over and over again over the countless millennia to create many different Calamity Ganons, some of which even took different forms. And what's more is that perhaps the malice appearing in Tears of the Kingdom right around the Ganondorf corpse is more tendril-like and thick and deeply red in color because it's bonded with Ganondorf's blood, which resulted in his drained appearance. Now, the other versions of Calamity Ganon, called the Blight Ganons, which each take on the abilities and moves of the champions they were responsible for killing 100 years ago, are simply extensions of Calamity Ganon itself, since it's just made of malice anyway, and we know that malice can clearly split apart as much as it wants to across Hyrule, and can even create other monsters given that it has bodies to corrupt, and therefore create other Ganons should it have a body like Ganondorf's that's powerful enough to corrupt. And wouldn't you know it, we can't find the champions' bodies anywhere in the game, and their Blight Ganons each move just like they do. But for a much deeper dive into what I'm insinuating here, check out my video that I did on that exact topic linked below. Breath of the Wild's bosses weren't super varied, but that doesn't mean there wasn't lore to explore. There's always more lore, and I would love it if you shared your take on this lore in the comments below. Perhaps I missed something, or perhaps you learned something new. Either way, let me know, and please leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. These do take quite a bit of research to put together, so it's greatly appreciated. Also, subscribe if you haven't already, because like I said at the very first, the other Zelda games are on the way, so if you love bosses, this is the place to be. And there may even be other series coming soon explaining the lore about Zelda dungeons, so you're gonna want to stay tuned. Huge thanks as always to my bandit crew who make my day every day, and a very warm welcome to Roses Red 17 who just joined up right here on YouTube. If you're interested in helping this channel fly higher, check out the links below or share this video with a friend. That's about all I've got for this one, so be sure to follow me on my socials and I'll see you next time. This is Bandit, signing out. Peace!